listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Another live episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Live every single Tuesday night right here on all your favorite social media networks. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And he never reveals his name. He doesn't even remember it by the end of the night. He just makes noises. But I will say, I was watching the intro of our podcast there.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've had a lot of we're approaching, by the end of the year, episode 500.
Yeah.
500!
I mean, can you believe that?
That's insane.
500 episodes. It is insane. And I was actually looking at just some of the footage we used for the intro, and I'm like, we got to do some more stuff. We got to get we got to order a pizza again. It was that Cheez-It pizza. Oh. But we got to order, we got to do the blonde wigs. If they bring in
that Cheez-It Crunch Wrap, we're going to have to do a Cheez-It Crunch Wrap.
Ooh, man. Taco Bell,
that little presser event they had, when he said that, I was like, I would totally.
I'm with the peeps that are saying, look, screw Apple.
Yeah.
Screw all their big reveals. Who cares about the Vision Pro? Give me the Crunch Wrap taco.
Yeah.
Was it a Crunch Wrap steak taco, or what is it? And they even have chicken nuggets.
Crunch Wraps are a normal thing. They have a crunch, but it's the Cheez-It Crunch Wrap. Like, it's a giant
Cheez-It Crunch Wrap.
It's instead of like the hard shell taco that's inside there, it's a giant Cheez-It.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Giant. Neil's going to be all over that. He'll be all over that.
The problem with that stuff is same thing with the pizza.
It gets soggy.
Yeah, but it's just not real Cheez-It.
That's true.
Like, it just doesn't have the same.
It's almost the same as like, and this is a stretch, but like was it Cookie Crisp? Was like, that was the cereal that was supposed to be like shaped like cookies, but it doesn't
taste like
a chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
No.
It's just made into like a shape of a cookie, and they had a little chocolate chip on it, but it's like, come on.
No.
Now, Waffle Crisp, that straight up tastes like waffles and syrup. It's so good. He's like,
no, it's good, but it doesn't taste like a waffle.
I mean, not 100%, but it tastes more like a waffle than Cookie Crisp.
I would say they were the same.
No.
Waffle and cookies. Yeah.
Oh, man.
It was basically the Waffle Crisp was just a syrup flavored version of Cookie Crisp.
And I'm
it's
telling
same texture and everything.
You eat the Waffle Crisp, I'm sucking down that milk after I'm done. It's freaking delicious.
Cookie Crisp tasted like, chocolate chip cookies.
No.
It just...
I disagree.
Sugar coated like a Waffle Crisp. They're just sugar coated.
Beg to differ. To differ. Not winning me over on this one.
No, I don't think either one of them tastes exact.
We had, what was it? We had the one episode where we got the cereal. Was it the... Well, wait. We got duped.
It was that weird cereal.
Was it the weird one?
I thought
there was one where we were going to get like some Star Wars branded cereal. No, that was part of the joke. And you open it up and it was a T-shirt.
Yeah, it's a T-shirt.
Because the box itself was like the...
Yeah,
that
was
just
the cereal box. Yeah.
But there was some kind of cereal we tried.
It was some off-brand cereal that didn't we get that? I thought we bought that for the lake.
I can't remember, but
we
had
had
it on the show. We ate it on the show, and it was some kind of weird flavored, like fruity flavored type cereal. I can't
recall this.
I know what he's talking about.
I mean, 500 episodes.
I thought we bought some weird cereal at like...
Oh, I'm sure we did.
Oh, we bought it at Walmart.
I think so.
Yeah.
And we just didn't eat it at the lake, and I guess we brought it back or something. I just want to do more fun stuff.
Yeah, we should.
I want to do more stuff that'll get us into the next time I re-update the intro. We can spruce it up. We still haven't done anything, like we haven't had a hot challenge in a while.
That's right.
We never did do the chip challenge.
I have.
On here, not on the show.
Not on here, but I have multiple times.
Because we did the Reaper.
Nuts.
Honestly,
the
so far the Death
nuts.
Nut's been the worst.
Yeah.
The Death Nuts suck.
I mean, it was worse than the chip. So I don't know.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I don't know about the chip. It was worse than the pepper.
Yeah, it was worse, but the chip's not that bad. Like once you've gone through everything else.
I want to do the pepper again. Well, I don't have to do any
I would.
of it.
Like knowing now what I know, and having had hotter stuff, I would eat a whole Carolina Reaper.
You all did not eat the seeds though. We
cut it in half and chewed it up, but then I think we spit it out.
I think I took a smaller bite than Keith did.
But I mean, I would eat a whole pepper.
Because isn't there a hotter pepper out now?
It's not. You can't buy it anywhere, but there is.
Yeah.
But there is one. I forget what it's called. That they've
crossbred again.
Yeah.
El Diablo.
El Diablo.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
California
I would try
Reaper
it.
2.
The lava pepper.
Lava. Maybe we should film me going up to B-Dubs and winning one of them shirts. Do they still do the shirts?
I don't know.
I
I
don't
you got your
sense-
picture on the wall. And
Well, I don't
everything,
care
man.
about a picture on the wall. If they don't give me a free shirt, I don't want to do it. I'm like, what's the point of this if I don't get something in return?
It's like
For what? Eating what?
The blazing wings, because they make them with Carolina Reaper now.
Yeah.
And like,
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
Yeah, we tried it when I was there because remember, like we actually last time we were there.
I don't
This was
remember
several
this.
years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And I actually tried them. I was like, oh, yeah, I could totally. They taste much better now. They're a little bit sweeter. But I was like, I could totally do this. But I don't remember if the woman said I would get a shirt or not. And I'm
Actually,
like,
I think it would be funny if you just went around and did all these competitions where they gave you free like clothes, and then the only shirts you ever wore
was stuff that you've won.
were like, I won this because I ate this hot thing.
I ate
Yeah.
the biggest cheeseburger.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there was a
I
place on Dixie that did something like that. It was a local place, but it was a huge burger because my cousin Davey did it, and I forget what it was. It wasn't.
There used to be a Sweet Daddy burger.
I think that might have been what it
That
was
wasn't
called.
on Dixie Highway though.
Oh,
That was
then it
somewhere
wasn't that.
else.
This was on Dixie. It was like a local thing.
There's
but,
one in Indiana that has a burger that's like 2 pounds.
Oh,
It's
gosh.
like,
oh my.
and I mean the
God.
bun is as big as a dinner plate.
That's
like it's
crazy.
they flatten it out, but it's huge, like it's wide.
See, that's getting into like the Guy Fieri stuff where he'd go
Yeah.
around and what was his like? They do the man versus food or something.
Yeah.
yeah.
But like, because at those places it was like, I know it. But the one that Davey ate, if you finished it, you got it for free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you still
That's
got
the
your
way it
picture
should
on
be,
it.
yeah.
exactly.
Jailhouse Pizza's got a pizza that they dare you to try to eat. You get it free if you. It's like $100 though.
Oh dang!
Yeah,
Screw that.
Oh, it might be like 50.
But if you get it free,
But yeah, if you
But I
eat it, you
mean,
get it free. But it's like
I don't
there's
know.
no way one person could eat it.
There's
just no way.
You die. You die.
I bet one person has probably eaten it.
I mean, that's honestly what
died.
they need. Yeah, he died right there.
Yeah,
He died on the spot.
After they were like, check his mouth. Did he swallow it?
Yep. And they're like, nah, he doesn't get it for free. Right next to his dead body's a check.
Yeah, still there.
Yep. Got to pay it. Pay up. No, we got a great show. We got a great show for everybody. Got 2 reviews tonight. That's right. We're knocking out one more Oscar nom for Best Picture. We're only down to 2 left. Poor Things and Zone of Interest. The one we're reviewing tonight is Past Lives. However, we've got one review before that. The one that was not the big boy on the block this week or big girl on the block this week. It got trounced by...
It was the hottest film on the block. What are you talking about?
I know. That's what people wanted it to be. Sony definitely wanted it to be.
People wanted it to be just Sony. I don't think anybody thought,
Yeah, that's true.
I really hope this movie's awesome. Like,
I mean, you would have thought
it's not a movie I don't
maybe-
think anybody even asked for.
You could have thought maybe word of mouth because of all of the promotion, because they spent tens of millions promoting this movie.
There's no
That-
reason for that.
People probably knew it was coming out and thought, oh, it's another one of them superhero movies. I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll do fine. Well, everybody's now of the opinion that they'll do fine, and they won't.
They don't.
Because
They
this
haven't
got
been.
trounced by Bob Marley's One Love,
Yep.
which did better than expected. It was on a similar budget, $80 million, to like Madam
crazy.
Web's $81 million. And it pretty much, I mean, it's still got to do good. It's still got to do well in the theaters. But Bob Marley's like, look at it outpacing this in its first weekend.
Oh, yeah.
This movie
This had a
came
6-day opening.
6-day opening, and it still only managed like $52 million.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
North America and globally
And it was,
combined.
this was written by the same people that wrote Morbius, right?
Yeah,
No,
yes.
was it?
The same
I thought it was
writers.
written
Oh,
by
was
the
it the same
yeah.
writers? Oh,
It was the
that's
same
crazy.
writers who
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
that, and then there were like 3 or 4 other movies that were awful flops.
Well, obviously, Sony needs to hire new people to write comic book movies because they don't know comic books.
Yeah, there's been like a meme video of the writers during like I guess it was the red
Yeah.
carpet of the premiere, and they were like, "Yeah, we just really wanted to focus on telling
Oh,
the
I saw
story."
that, yeah.
And of course, it's in an era before Spider-Man, but of course one where we had to put Britney Spears Toxic in there,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's what you were shooting for. That was it.
They had to make sure
Okay.
it was set in a time frame where they could, But yeah, in that same interview, he talked about how they chose this character because she had no backstory.
Right.
Despite the fact that she does have a backstory. So,
Not one that
Not
is
one-
shown
Yeah,
in
no.
the comics. It's told. Or
mean,
even briefly told, I guess.
It's shown, maybe like 1 page long, but it's still because it's a comic. So I mean, it's visual medium. But I mean, it's not.
Man, what movie are we talking about?
Yeah, we keep hitting Madam Web.
Madam Web.
I don't know why we do that.
We do that all the time.
Yeah.
We tease it and then we never we
just
don't ever drop
tease it way too long.
Hopefully,
way too long.
yeah, we do. We do. We drag on. Here's our review. Let's just get into it. Here's Madam Web.
It's hard to believe, but in less than 3 weeks, the 96th Annual Academy Awards will be upon us. With the event nearing, studios have now begun re-releasing contenders to the theaters, or otherwise releasing them to home digital streaming, in hopes that viewers will catch them and gain interest before the big show. Each studio is putting out their best in anticipation. And then there's Sony. Yes, while Oscar contenders are making the rounds, there are still a few new releases vying for attention at the theaters. And the biggest, well, maybe not biggest, but the most notable, well, maybe not notable either, but the only movie currently out connected to a larger franchise, sorta, is Madam Web, Sony's latest film in the Spider-Man universe. The kind of related, but not really, unwanted step-cousin of the MCU's Spider-Man, featuring all the Spider-Man characters no one asked for on film without Spider-Man. Directed by S.J. Clarkson, making her feature film directorial debut after work on several prominent television series that most fans agreed petered out long before they ended, shows like Dexter and Orange is the New Black. Somehow, though, this resume screamed perfect comic book film director to Sony. So, Social Justice Clarkson was handed the reins to the biggest female character every Spider-Man has clamored to see on screen, leading their own movie, Madam Web. Who's Madam Web, you ask? You don't know? Why does she deserve her own movie? Well, this movie won't answer any of those questions. Starring Dakota Johnson as Cassandra Webb, a clairvoyant woman whose abilities trigger after going over the edge of a bridge while trapped in her ambulance. Her powers, however, have deeper roots in mystic spider people her mother encountered while in Peru, and she must turn to them when an old partner of her mother's, Ezekiel Sim, begins to hunt her and 3 teenage girls. That quick summary of events are not even the dumbest things to be in this film. In fact, my summary, as strange as it sounds, makes more sense than the actual movie. And at no point in time did I feel like a single plot point was logical. And at no point in time did I feel as if I was watching any significant chapter in a larger Spider-Man universe play out. Don't worry, we have Uncle Ben, played by Adam Scott, and surprise, here's Emma Roberts as a pregnant Mary Parker, Ben's sister-in-law, and who could she be pregnant with? Well, shh, that's a surprise. You'd think it's obviously Peter Parker, but we can only hint at that because it's a bigger surprise for the audience when Peter Parker's mom gives birth to Peter Parker. So instead, let's build this world prior to Peter's birth that includes mystic spider people and a newly discovered species of what seems to be a very important spider. Could this be the spider that eventually bites Peter? Well, it sure is a MacGuffin because there has to be some reason for Ezekiel and 20-year-old women playing minors to fight. Madam Web is just plain awful. It's awful. It's a 2-hour origin story for a character whose origin could have been summed up in 2 minutes, as a supporting character in a larger Spider-Man movie. It introduces 4 other Spider-Man characters, Ezekiel Sims, and 3 variants of Spider-Woman, yet doesn't even act like an origin story for any of them, never showcasing them as their alter egos outside of a few visions. Instead, they're there for more girl power and to pad the runtime. They act solely as MacGuffins, much like the spider that kicks off the entire film. Nothing is significant about the spider, and nothing is significant about them outside of the fact that Ezekiel Sims has deemed them important. And while this plot could have acted as a cautionary tale of visions not possibly being what they seem, this never plays into the film's plot either. And by the film's end, Cassandra Webb has embraced her visions and sees all, including her best friend's future death. But that's okay because she'll make a clever pun about it, and we'll all laugh knowing that, spoiler alert, Uncle Ben's gonna die one day. Outside of the horribly contrived plot, is there anything redeemable? No, there is not. It's not just the plot. The dialogue is horrendous, and so is the acting. Barely passable in most instances. The special effects are also often laughable, and by the film's end, I really cannot fathom the point of why this movie was made. It does not build up a larger Spider universe, and it does not set up any characters in any meaningful way for the future other than setting up Madam Web as a psychic who will eventually help Spider-Man. A plot point that again could have been established in 2 minutes instead of 2 hours. I give Madam Web a total bomb.
Whoa! This is only, I think, our second total bomb.
It deserved
Yes,
it.
it did.
Man. Wow.
I mean, I was just thinking about, like, this is the worst of all the Sony-produced Spider-Man movies so far, in my opinion. And I don't even remember what I gave Morbius, maybe 1.5, but I'm like, it's definitely lower than that.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking about Jurassic World Dominion,
yeah.
and that was our first bomb for some similar reasons, but I'm just like, this movie doesn't serve any purpose
I would
whatsoever.
gladly watch
Oh, I'd watch Dominion, yes.
again over this.
right.
I
Like,
would.
That was,
This one was
I
just
would.
Yeah.
boring, and you could get. I mean, there were times where I was picking up my phone, like I did not
Oh, no,
care
yeah.
what was going
I
on.
shopped
just-
on Temu.
I've never seen a
I
movie
was
that I
looking at
felt
Temu
was
through the whole
that
movie.
point. Like, I've never seen a movie more pointless in my. Like, I'm just like, what is this? Like, what purpose does any of this serve? The plot doesn't even serve a purpose or make sense. Like, you kick off the whole thing with them finding that spider in Peru, and then like that's it. It's like the spider's important. No, it's not. It was just a MacGuffin to get him
Well,
for.
we-
But I mean, the whole movie is not important.
nothing.
It
Yeah,
does
you're
not.
right.
It does not lead to anything.
Well,
that-
she has psychic powers now, and one day she might help Spider-Man.
Whatever.
Maybe. Probably not.
It's just like
I like you just said whatever.
I saw,
Yeah,
I saw
whatever.
somebody
That was the whole point.
tweeting about the movie, and they were just like, it's almost like Sony. They have the rights to this, and if they don't make something, then it's almost like they feel like if they don't make something, they're going to lose it.
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
like,
that
no, you
is
can
true,
you
but
can
you have
you can have
several
it and sit
years.
on it, but it's just like, yeah, they're putting out crap that doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not necessary.
Yeah. Well, who asked? I was just saying, who asked for Madam Web? It's like, out of all the characters that you have the rights to in the Spider-Verse, everything related to Spider-Man.
Well, they
and
wanted-
you said
they wanted it-
Madam Web sounded like a character, a geriatric blind woman. We'll just make her younger.
Yeah, but it's got to
mean-
be a female.
Well,
It's got to
and
be
I
the
was gonna
female
say,
lead.
Clearly, based on even her character with the other Spider Women that they throw in this
Right,
film,
yeah.
they wanted a female-led superhero movie because they thought it would be hot,
And I-
that's
Well,
what
I get
Marvel
that.
had the Marvels,
Right.
And so now Sony's got to
But there
have
are other
this.
female Spider-Man characters that people know more or that are more popular. You could have made a
But it
Spider-Gwen
also-
movie.
Gwen movie, yeah.
But,
You,
but here's
you
the
could have
thing,
made
it
a Black Cat
also-
movie. You could have made a Silver Sable movie.
But it proves the point that if you're just grifting on what you think is going to sell for the sake, I mean, this is the problem Marvel has been in. This is the problem that has been going on since the end of Endgame, is they can't find their footing and they can't find a focal point of stories that people actually care about. Whether it's because they're trying to, fulfill some DEI initiative, or the fact that they just got really crappy writers. And we were joking
we
about
already
it.
know that.
Right before we went to the review, we were joking around about how these writers are just terrible, and they clearly. I mean, I have to look up It was a screenshot of the movies that these people have written before, and all of them stunk. None of them. These people have not had any stellar releases. They've all flopped. I don't know why they still have a job. I have no clue.
Because they had a writer's strike and they deserve more money.
Right, exactly. If there's one thing this movie fulfilled, it was the reason why we had a writer's strike, no doubt. But yeah, I don't know. It was a debacle. I lost interest within the moment Spider people come out of the.
Yeah.
That's like
Honestly,
the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
I'm like, what
I
did
mean,
these-
I snickered because I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a good movie. This is
Yeah.
gonna be terrible."
Yeah.
And then after they're in the pool and she's giving birth and these weird spider people around, I'm like,
What
this
is
is
this?
terrible.
Yeah,
I'm like,
like, what
this
is
is
going
like
on?
circa 2002, what I would have seen in the first Fantastic Four, and even it is better than this.
I mean,
crap.
this was like Electra bad. Like Jennifer Gardner. Just like, what?
First Daredevil, Ben Affleck Daredevil.
What was it? Nerdrotic
Yeah.
said it was worse
Oh,
than the
man.
Halle Berry Catwoman.
Catwoman,
It's like,
yeah.
you know you've screwed up when you're worse than that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were so many moments though, like we were just talking about during the review, where the guy, he brings the woman home and he sleeps with her, and then he just wakes up and starts like
telling his whole master plan.
And the whole time she's just like, "Are you having a bad dream?" He's like, "Yeah, I murder people all the time." She's like, "Just what are you thinking about?" And then like he just murder. He just tells her everything, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, he kills her, and now all of a sudden, oh, she's got an NSA badge. I'm like, well, I guess that sums up our security in the States here. Yeah, real secure.
And all of the moments that the movie tried to be funny just fell flat too. Like there's a part where she's thinking to herself like, oh, like I should be able to climb walls. Yeah. And she like goes up against the wall and just like splats up against the wall and
just falls down.
Yeah, and falls or whatever. And I'm just like, I understand in another world, like in a multiverse, maybe that would have been funny. That was not the way it was delivered. It was terrible.
Well, because she had no reason, like other than like the whole Spider-Man thing, who doesn't exist yet. She has no reason. Like, why would she think that?
That's right.
It was just one of those weird things where I'm like, why would she just automatically assume that she can like stick to walls?
Yeah, because we as the audience know what Spider-Man.
That's right.
I know, but that's why the joke fails, because it's like, yeah, it's only for the audience, but it doesn't work.
You're making
a
movie that takes place before Spider-Man existed, but you expect the audience to know who Spider-Man is, and yeah, it was just garbage.
And then even the set pieces, there were no good. I don't even know. I mean, the movie was an $80 million budget, and I'm sorry, we've seen things from Blumhouse way cheaper that can do so much with far less money.
I mean, the effects were terrible in this.
The effects were terrible, but even like there wasn't one set piece that stuck out to me that I would literally call a set piece.
The Pepsi set piece sticks out.
Oh yeah, anything with product placement,
not in a good way, but it sticks out.
But I'm like, the whole entire movie, there's not one thing that you can look. The diner sequence, I'm like,
no,
this is what you would start a movie out with, because it's so subpar based on what we've seen. And no, I don't need to see planets blowing up. But gosh, give me some kind of acrobatics. Even the flashback scenes, the one scene that we have in the movie of these women dressed up, there's literally one flash forward scene.
Yeah.
And it shows them not even doing anything, just literally like maybe crawling on all fours up to the camera to give a stance, and they're in their outfit, and then they cut away. And that's it. Like nothing. And her outfit at the end.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
Looks god awful.
With the Shawn Michaels shades.
Yes. Bret Hart.
Bret Hart. Yeah,
Bret Hart
that's my bad.
Yeah. No, it reminded me of the shades that Christopher Lloyd wears in Back to the Future 2.
Yes.
Those except they were red. His were like silver or whatever. But that's what they looked like, something straight out of the 80s.
His was supposed to look like goofy and like 80s.
Yes.
And whereas that was like their serious attempt.
This one straight up looked like you went to Walmart and spray painted something that was in the kids aisle. And it looked terrible. I'm like, I don't know how they passed.
We have costumes at home that are better than that my kids wear.
I mean, we get more fancy for Halloween. And like even the scene at the end where she like turns and now she's apparently blind and in a Professor X chair that moves her around.
Yeah,
it looked goofy. I'm like, this director. I love that you called her social justice.
That's S.J. Clarkson.
S.J. Clarkson, social justice Clarkson. That was great. But I'm just like, this movie had nothing going for it.
It was a bad movie. It was
honestly, my favorite part of this movie was there's a scene where she is, I think it's not like the first time she sees what's going to happen, but it might be the second, where she sees the guy getting hit in the ambulance.
Yes.
Where he like drives and her glimpse of the future shows this like terrible wreck.
Yeah.
Like mangled everything. And then she tells him like, you need to get out, you need to let me drive or whatever. Well, then he gets in the car and takes off driving, and it gets T-boned a little bit. And it's like, it's nowhere near the graphic scene that she saw. And I'm just like,
but he dies in it.
Yeah.
He dies.
Yes. Yeah. In a freaking armored ambulance.
Oh, I loved the intro scene when she comes to get the guy out of the car that's flipped.
Oh,
and the way she even just runs up on the car, it's
like Chicago Fire.
Dakota Johnson.
It was so bad.
It was like
TV. Yeah.
I mean, she has like her acting is so in the I don't care.
No.
I don't know why I'm being paid to make this movie.
Well, she don't care in the movie when the little girl gives her a picture or whatever. what do I do with this?
Yeah, they were trying to build up some like, oh, she doesn't like emotion. I guess she doesn't have this affinity for people because her mom abandoned her.
Whatever.
They were trying to build some kind of stupid backstory. Like
She was just going to be an old Catwoman because,
That's it.
she was
going to be T
An old
Swiftie.
Spider-Woman.
But and then like she gets in the car and she like cuts the guy's seatbelt and he just falls out of the seat. I'm like, I don't know if this is protocol or not. It didn't really seem like it.
No.
And even like the fact that they tried to have a team emotional building scene around her teaching them CPR, and I'm like, why is this in this movie? Why?
Well, because
What
they're
is
not going to
this?
bother to give any of them powers and have them use it, so you can't have a team bonding scene of them discovering how to use their powers and fight.
Wait a
So
second.
instead, we got to have CPR.
Now I get it. The real heroes are the first responders.
That's true.
That's what it was.
Female
what it was.
first responders.
This would have been a great COVID movie. This would have been a great
it might have
movie.
worked back then.
Right. It might have sold that a little bit better. Yeah, so 0 out of 4 stars. Madam Web is a complete flop. It's a fail.
It's bad.
We even have a
I'd rather
headline
watch
talking
Morbius
about it,
again.
but we kind of already talked about, how it didn't stand up to Bob Marley at all. It's going to continue to dwindle. I mean, I forget the major theater chain that's already talking about it getting pulled.
Yeah.
Because
it's not
just
going to make
nobody's-
any more
Nobody's
money.
going to see it.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's a huge disappointment. I don't know how, but I think we do need to drum up enough support online and just let them know, hey, we may be willing to come back and see it.
Yeah.
If you re-release
It's
it.
like Sony. It's like, look, we know nobody showed up for Morbius 3 times, but we really will show up for Madam Web again.
Just do it. Just test us. We'll see. Alrighty, guys. I think we're gonna move on to our other review of the evening. It is one of our last Oscar reviews. That's right.
What?
We only got 2 more after this one until the big show.
Until the big show.
We're gonna have them all in.
We will. We'll have
have
seen every single one of
Every
them.
Best Picture nom. Here
Yeah.
is our review of Past Lives.
We are inching ever closer to the Academy Awards. And while we have reviews for nearly all of the Best Picture nominees, including those considered to be the heaviest contenders, there are still a few left needing of attention. And most surprisingly of all, or perhaps not surprising at all, is that the smaller, less talked about nominees seem to be the ones most deserving of the nomination. This week we review Past Lives, written and directed by Celine Song. Past Lives is a somber and bittersweet telling of Nora Moon, played by Greta Lee, and Hae Sung, played by T.O.U. 2 children growing up in South Korea who develop a childhood crush on one another and an inseparable friendship, until Nora's family one day moves to America. The 2 are separated only to reconnect many years later as adults, with the film reflecting on their lives now versus the lives they could have led. Sentimental and sweet, Past Lives is certainly one of the best films to get the nomination this year. With no focus on political agendas or cramming ideology down audiences' throats, Past Lives is an impeccably well-made, emotional ride that focuses on universal themes of missed love and what could have been. Both Sung and Yu give fantastic performances that drive home both their separation and longing. The film covers their relationship and Nora's relationship to her husband Arthur, played by John Magaro, with realism and subtlety. There is no Hollywoodized melodrama and friction for the sake of friction, but instead an organic air of past reflection and understanding in a realistic relationship. While Hollywood loves to decry and tear down traditional marriage and relationships, Song handles the themes of unrequited love without having to devalue Nora's marriage. Outside of the film's story, which is emotionally wrenching as is, we have a very well-written script and dialogue, acting that drives the character's depth and story, and brilliant visual storytelling through cinematography and simple set pieces that set the film's tone. Past Lives, for as good as it is, however, isn't a story I found completely original or new. It doesn't, in my opinion, break the mold of what is a Best Picture nominee, much as I have said about the holdovers this year as well. That said, while it doesn't reinvent any wheels, its earnestness and genuine attention to what anyone alive could relate to in regard to missed chances in love and past lives is still one of the best, if not the best nominee this year, and is worth viewing if you haven't already. I give Past Lives 3 out of 4 stars.
Well. I think since the Holdovers,
I think
that may be our only other Best Picture nom that we've kind of favored.
Well, I think I gave Oppenheimer 3, but that was a while back.
I was the one that disagreed on
that.
Yeah. Both it and Barbie.
I mean, I liked this, I would say, more than Oppenheimer. And I would say the Holdovers a little bit too. Oppenheimer's just a very long, like really well-made movie. But as far as like keeping you hooked, I felt like the Holdovers in this would definitely be better. This one, I know you liked it a little bit more than me. There was just not the emotional punch I kept waiting. Like I kept waiting for that shoot. Like I felt like it kept building me up towards like a really good emotional moment. And there's several scenes throughout that are really well done. But I never felt like the shoe dropped and hit me the way I've seen some other movies in a similar vein go. And again, I don't knock this. I do think it definitely deserves its nom, especially this year when most of the nominees are garbage.
See, and it's weird because
and it almost feels like a slap in the face to say that about this movie too. I don't mean it that way.
I know you don't mean it that way, but I ended up giving it 3.5. And while I definitely think they're part of our story time segment a little later is reviewing the last decade or even then of Oscar Best Picture winners.
Yeah.
And definitely if this had come out in other years, it might have not landed a Best Picture nom, or at least it would have been in the bottom tier. However, definitely compared against the competition, but even on its own merit, I ended up favoring this a little bit more. I still have not seen the Holdovers, so I still need to watch that movie. But I don't know if it's going to sway me in the same way this one has. I don't think this one has a chance of winning. I still think Oppenheimer, as we get closer, is probably the favorite, as I've seen it pick up other awards. But I do think, unlike you, this one hit me in the emotional feels. Not necessarily that it made me cry or anything. I mean, it takes a lot for a movie to get me there. I actually probably choked up more watching American Fiction and some of the family dynamics there. However, overall, American Fiction didn't hit me the way this one did by the end of the film. And ultimately, by the end of this film, I just felt like the writing is so good. The acting is so well done. The story, there's just, to me, and it may be me being not only sentimental, but also I'm just torn for the fact that this story, while it is nothing necessarily groundbreaking in the way it's told, we don't get stories like this anymore.
And that's true. I agree with that.
And it just kills me because there's nothing political about it. There's nothing other than just it telling the lives of these three people, these three individuals. And even the way the movie opens up, I think is brilliant. Yeah. Because I think everybody has had that conversation. I don't want to spoil anything, but everybody has, people watched before, and they have their own recollections of what other people's lives are like.
Going on over
and I thought
there,
that was a great scene setter, only to then, because you immediately know, okay, well, now we're about to see the story unfold. How does this happen? And then when you finally land yourself back in this scene later in the film, you don't feel like it's a cheap trick to get you, back into where the movie started. It's so tastefully done.
It ties completely in with the themes of the movie anyways. It's just what I really enjoyed about that opening, and like you said, how it picks back up when you get there again. I felt like that is one thing that the movie does as a whole that I really appreciate, that I think modern Hollywood movies fell at, is that the characters, like their depth and then the themes, are always front and center. The whole, like everything in the movie is made around the characters and the theme. And I feel like modern Hollywood movies, like modern Marvel movies, no longer focus on characters or theme. It's just this jumbled garbage of lights saying, look at this. Does this entertain you? Look at dangling keys.
Well, and not just that. I think it also, they shortcut a lot of that human interaction.
Well, they try to placate their certain points of views in their movies that aren't built in a theme.
They short sell human nature and human interaction that people have, and they try to shoehorn it in by telling you, not showing you. Yeah. And a lot of times that's the issue that I have with a lot of movies now, these days, especially with characters, is that there's a lot that they're depending on in the structure of society that they expect humans to already, that we all just kind of get and collectively understand. But a lot of times, especially cross-cultural, you don't pick up on those nuances. And especially if you just shoehorn them in and expect us to already have that emotion from the outset, you don't think you have to have the character show it.
Yeah.
You just automatically expect these traits to be present when you tell us they're present, and that we just somehow attach those to the person that we're watching, and it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't.
And I hate to say it, but and it's not just within movies nowadays. It's within TV shows. I think it's interesting.
I think all entertainment aspects, really.
Because
I was going to say video games. A lot of those.
They're getting to that point. At least there you kind of have some kind of outward, like some games you can have for story, others you can just have for fun. I mean, because that's the main activity.
Yeah.
But it's like when you're wanting to be entertained and you're wanting to I mean, there was an article that just came out. I don't know if we may not have it linked in the description below, but it specifically was talking about how they're shocked that most of the streaming services are people watching older TV shows. They're watching old, TV series. And it's like, why is that happening? There's so much new content. It's like,
because your new content's garbage.
Exactly. Exactly. And we'll vote with our eyes and with our dollars when it comes down to it.
I do think you're right, especially because going into, you talking about like having preset notions of what people understand, especially culturally. That is one thing that I love about this movie, and I think a lot of these independent movies and foreign movies we've reviewed that have been better than the Hollywood nominees is that, one, they are universal themes, like unrequited love and like those like what might have been type things. Everybody can relate to that no matter what culture you're in. But then the fact that this movie still like has a bit of the Korean culture by using the word inyan, which is what the word that get the title Past Lives, about how that's, with Buddhism and Shinto believe in like reincarnation and multiple lives. So the idea is that inyan is kind of this term you use for relationships where, say, if somebody gets married, well, then inyan is kind of this idea that for thousands of years throughout your past lives, you've always connected. And like that's why you continue to kind of reconnect, and it's kind of this built-in idea.
Soulmate.
Yeah, kind of. But it's not just marriage; it's with any type of relationship. Like if your shirt brushes somebody in public, it's because somewhere in your past life, like you all had some type of connection.
Oh, okay.
So it's just this idea of people
and the
being
fact
connected
that it could
way.
be taken romantically or even just
And it was this kind of cool
platonically.
thing of them explaining in a very well done way, again, not just an expedition dump. Yes, it's her talking to her husband about this, but you see like the whole transition of like her, like him in Korea, and then while she's at this like kind of camp with him, and like it does this beautiful way of like not just telling but showing and incorporating this Korean idea in with a universal theme, so that everybody can relate to it even if you're not from Korea, but that's kind of their idea. And I feel like modern movies now aren't worried about those universal themes or even taking cultural moments like that and applying them to universal themes. They're just worried about whatever agenda that they're trying to shoehorn in. And it's not going to be subtle. It's going to be very blatant, like America Chavez and Multiverse of Madness.
And even though in those instances that you're bringing up and drawing attention to, almost always the agenda trumps the actual emotion.
Yes.
And that's why it seems disingenuous.
Because the agenda is supposed to be, like, if you don't feel for this person,
the agenda is
you're a
supposed
horrible
to
person.
evoke the emotions.
Yes.
But they don't.
Right. Because
but again, if they don't, you're a bad person and you're a bigot.
But no, Sean's right. They ring hollow.
They are. They're hollow.
And because of that, they can't evoke that kind of emotion, and that's why you have people turning to older style, content, or looking for something like this as a
outside of Hollywood. Yeah.
It's like, this is much better than what you're getting current day Hollywood. So I don't know. I hope it picks up some awards. Probably won't, unfortunately.
I don't think it's really nominated for much else, which
it's a
it
shame.
It is. It's one of those things, and we're definitely like. It was funny when I made the graph that we're going to get into later. I was just like, you can. There's like clear. I was just
decline.
Like you could see it was just so blatant to me that it's like, man, you could just kind of tell. Like 2015 on, like you could just see like where
which is about the year we started this thing.
Well, there's a
crazy.
It's been
almost 10 years.
There's like this
guys.
steady trickle, and then all of a sudden a sharp turn, and you could just see it building, and then bam, like everything's agenda driven.
Not just with the movie industry, but just our culture, the political climate. Like, it is really weird that if you look at like 2015, 2016, that's when it just took a turn. Yeah, like drastically.
Yep.
And it's just kind of amazing. That's not something that's like, there's things that have changed over 40 or 50 years that you can recognize like even I would say even our idea of America's place in militarily and with war, like since Vietnam, our mindset has changed a little bit, and it's like over gradually. But this is something like the woke thing, like that is just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't even know if anybody can explain it.
Right. No, I mean, I think it's going to be left up to the the historians. But I mean, it's kind of weird because we were thrust into this world of social media and everything being integrated. And I think the more that you see, I think restrictions loosened on individual, free thinking and free speech, the more you see the backlash from those who want to control that and keep it from being something that is broken free. And I think you're just seeing where the pendulum swings have kind of always been gradual back and forth. And sometimes you can even look back in history and say, oh, well, that wasn't as gradual as we thought. We just, now as time has moved on, we've unveiled more as to how drastic it was. Whereas now you don't really get a chance to breathe. The 24-hour news cycle mixed in with all the other drama and everything going on, you're getting these vast shifts in the tectonic plates of, cultural and societal norms that are just changing all the time. And it's like, you wake up and you don't have a chance to breathe. It's like things are always changing. It's crazy. But crazy. We're going to move into our headlines now.
Yeah, I did not see this movie.
Well, you're going to check it out.
I'll catch up. I'm going to watch it same as you're going to watch The Holdovers.
Yeah. So, but we got our next movie is Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
We're saving Poor Things for the final Oscar nom review.
Oh.
Yeah, that'll be right before, along with Dune.
Are we saving the best for last or the worst? We don't know yet.
We'll find out. I don't know. I've had mixed feelings about all these, but then there's, I will say with American Fiction and this one, definitely some surprises.
Even Anatomy of a Fall, it wasn't my favorite, but it was better. Like I said, I feel like the last couple we've done have been better than the ones that are being constantly talked about.
Yeah.
So
Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Barbie.
There's a lot of them that I'm starting to like more than Oppenheimer now.
Good.
Like, really.
I just don't think Oppenheimer to me.
I still don't think Oppenheimer's a bad movie. I just don't think it deserves to be Best Picture.
Yeah.
Agreed. And Oppenheimer to me is Nolan what Revenant was to Leo. It's like Leo did not deserve to win for The Revenant. It was an okay movie, but it was vastly overrated.
At the time, though, we all wanted him to win it.
But I would have, even then, I would have rather had seen him win for Wolf of Wall Street earlier, like in his career than that. I just don't think he deserved it for that performance.
I thought him Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was. Another performance of his that rivals The Wolf of Wall Street.
Fair enough. I think both are better than The Revenant.
True.
I'm not saying The Revenant's bad or his performance is bad. Just again, I don't think it's anything stellar based on what we hadn't seen from him already before. But yeah, let's move into now our headlines. Let's get into it. Man, we're still getting over some coughs.
I know it, man. Me and Keith are both over here.
Acting up a storm.
Oh, it'll be all the way until,
I can tell.
Yeah.
His voice is gruff and mine's...
Spring coming and allergies, and it's just...
Phlegm is here.
It's going to be like this for the next couple months.
Phlegm.
And people are just like, okay, well, I'm tuning out.
Sorry.
They're getting sick through the microphone.
Well, they'll just have to get over it.
All right, let's talk about some headlines. The big headline for this week is that Paramount Plus, it's looking for a new home, possibly to merge with Peacock. What is this?
They've been shopping because we've already heard about Paramount possibly merging with Warner Brothers Discovery, and that's not off the table either. Apparently,
I think that was before.
the
Disney buyout of 20th Century.
So the Peacock, based on the article, this wouldn't be a merger of like Paramount and Viacom, who owns Peacock. Like this would just simply be a partnership to pair Paramount and Peacock together. Now they are still shopping around the idea of merging Paramount with another company somewhere. That's still on the table.
The odd thing too is, and we'll have this article linked in the description below, but they were even saying that it wouldn't even be like a full catalog being merged onto Peacock. It would almost be like a smorgasbord of Paramount Plus content on Peacock.
It's like, let's partner together so we can have little bits of content on each other's services. But then, it's really odd to me because, again, your streaming services are failing, and yet they continue to remove content from the services that they own. Now they're partnering with, like, you got Max shipping off, like, their products for Amazon to buy. Paramount's like, well, let's put some of our stuff on Peacock. And I'm like, I don't understand the strategies for any of this, how this is going to win you all more money to your respective services.
Well, because that's the problem, though, is they're bleeding money to the point where they're looking to hoard themselves out, for lack of a better word.
That is. They're like, well, here, buy our content.
Right. And how can we pilfer off some of our content exclusively for a time being on another service? Meanwhile, here's the one thing, if Paramount Plus and Peacock combined, the odd thing is network-wise, that's CBS and NBC together. You already have Disney and ABC that owns ABC, and they're partnered with, what is it? Well, Fox doesn't really have anything.
Yeah.
They're just kind of, they're just sticking with cable
Hulu,
and network.
Disney's, most of their stuff is on Hulu, like ABC and some Fox. Fox actually partners with Hulu, too.
Okay, so then they put a little bit of their stuff. Hulu seems to be like, and that's what the article, it's just a Yahoo article, but it kind of narrows down the fact that even when all of this kind of conglomerating and, acquisitions started taking place, Hulu was kind of dancing around for a while being the individual, like, well, here's what we got that's a plus that nobody else has. Yeah. It was the TV shows and watching it, day of, right after it aired or next day. But I still think it's interesting because even with that, they weren't able to make a profit off of it. It was obviously nestled in enough to where Disney saw it was attractive, so they bought it up. And then even after it combined with Disney, you still now see that they're having too many issues with it being bifurcated between the services.
They're going to merge Disney Plus and Hulu and just have the one app.
So even with this possibly being in question of Paramount Plus and Peacock joining, I just think it's funny that with the information we just talked about and how people are enjoying older TV shows, and Netflix just had their price increase not too long ago and cracking down on the password sharing. But even the content they have, we were talking about how it's putting them in a bind because all these people have to do is just get together and say, hey, well, we're not going to sell you our content for your platform because all the eyeballs and subscription fees are going to you.
Yeah.
Why don't we actually hold on to our own content? But now even their own content libraries aren't sufficient enough that they still have to.
They're still selling. That's what's funny is you would think they would be like, well, let's just hold on to all our own content so that the only place people can get it is on our service. But because their service aren't doing well enough, they continue to sell their content to other services.
That's what I think. I think we've gotten to the point where there's too many streaming services to where, and we've talked about this before, but people are having to decide which ones they are willing to pay for and which ones they want to keep. And I don't think some of these, like, I think Disney is one of those, unfortunately, that still has such a back catalog that people are still, like myself, I'm willing to pay for it to have that back catalog for the time being, but it's so robust. I don't feel like I don't feel like there's anything on Disney that I'm sorry. There are things on Disney that I can only get there, and I'm fine with that. But with Paramount and with Peacock, there's not really anything that they have that I'm willing to say, okay, I'll keep your service or I'll pay for the top tier of your service just to get this one thing. Yeah, because that's all it would really be.
They only
it's
have
just
one or two major series.
There's a handful, and it's like with Peacock though. I mean, it's one of the cheaper ones. Yeah, it's like $5, $5 or $6
for the ad plan.
The ad plan, which is what I have. And that's so that me and the kids can watch Nickelodeon and Alf, and that's where we've been watching Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I thought that was Paramount. Isn't that Paramount?
Yeah, Paramount owns Nickelodeon.
It's Nickelodeon.
But they've
we're watching it on Peacock.
Yeah,
right
because
now.
they have.
Oh, so they've already started. Partnering
No, there's
some of these
Nickelodeon content on Hulu and Netflix.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. Like they've done that.
Some of it's ridiculous. Like that
was the only possible selling point for me thinking about getting Paramount Plus.
Oh, the Nickelodeon content's never been exclusive to Paramount.
Wow,
it's other places. Yeah, because there's Nickelodeon stuff on Netflix right now.
Well, they already have outstanding deals they still have to honor, But then, like, even when those deals expire, like, they've been re-upping them because I guess, I don't know. It's weird.
I knew about the Netflix Nickelodeon. I knew that Nickelodeon, because that deal happened like 2-3 years ago, where they were going to start putting stuff on there. But I didn't know that Legends of the Hidden Temple and stuff like that was on Peacock.
That and Truth or what was the other one with the
Double
Gak?
Dare.
Double
the
Dare.
one with the Gak and all that. What was that show? That's on there too.
I know which one you're talking about. But it's old, good TV.
Yes,
man.
it's good.
It's so good.
But what's ridiculous about all these streaming services is that it's like, for instance, I said me and the kids are watching Alf right now.
Yeah.
They love it. There's like 4 seasons of Alf on Peacock. There's 1 season that's not there.
Yeah.
It's on another streaming service that we don't have. Yep. And it's like, so I can watch season 1 and 2 and 4 and 5, but I can't watch season 3 because it's only on a different service.
This is the issue with the Taylor Sheridan stuff. I mean, Yellowstone, since its inception, it was split between the two, Peacock and Paramount. And I'm like, the new stuff was on Paramount Plus, the old stuff was on Peacock, and I was like, so I've got to have 2 separate subscriptions on 2 different platforms. And not to mention, I mean, there's all sorts of problems, whether it's, the splitting up of what's available, what's not. The prices are now getting comparable to where if you subscribe to all of these platforms, it now amounts to cable, which is what everybody's complaining about. You have ad tiers being introduced, so now it's not really feeling like it's the same value it was proposed as to begin with.
Might as well have cable,
then you also have originals that they're trying to justify you getting the subscription for, so you can say, oh, it's not just the old content that you want, it's also this new stuff that we're producing, even though it's flopping and nobody's watching it. Yeah. I mean, you've had a few little things, I think. Five Nights at Freddy's was well done, but it released in theaters as well. And they did a good job in the marketing and getting that on a platform you could watch at home, or you could watch it in the theater, and they double dipped, and it paid off to their success. Yeah. Peacock, I know for us getting back into wrestling, it has the WWE network in the States here. So that's been one reason to have Peacock. Like, you almost oddly have to have like some kind of silver bullet that will guarantee you're going to get some certain kind of subscriber base, because it does come down to what you're saying, Sean, where all these people are looking at all these streaming services and they're kind of weighing their options of, well, this one has this, what I'm really into, this one over here, not so much. I guess I'm gonna push it to the wayside. Yeah. And it seems like Paramount Plus has become the redheaded stepchild that people are willing to do away with.
There isn't anything other than the Taylor Sheridan series. There's not anything on Paramount driving people to it.
Right. And I understand them wanting to alleviate, I guess, that, that's why they're wanting to combine with another service. But then what happens if they do combine with a Peacock? Are they going to raise prices because now you're getting more content? Then is that going to turn people who are already subscribing to Peacock? I mean, I, for one, really only watch WWE on there right now. But even then, I will occasionally find older shows. The Office is on there. I rewatched that. Yeah. And I do like the fact that it's a no-ad plan. I'll pay the extra $5 to get a no-ad plan. But that's... Or actually, I think it's like $12.99. I can't remember for the ad-free tier. But even if it is, I'm like, that is still okay. It's on the bubble. But if they increase it to like $15, $18,
I mean,
I'm probably not gonna do it.
Yeah, they all go up. Like,
yes,
nothing's ever going to come down in price. It's just a continual. Raising oddly, the price.
I think the one that has been the most, and it still pisses me off, and it's why like every once in a while I get ticked, and even if I've got to subscribe because they have something I do want to watch. But Netflix is, I think, the only one that has not only increased its subscription price, but they have intentionally kept. They don't have. Excuse me. I knew it was coming, and I was trying to continue my thought. Oh man, you don't sneeze often on live TV, but sometimes it just happens. You can't help it. But no, Netflix is the only one in my mind that has increased their prices, but haven't added any extra value other than what they claim is like the 4K with the Dolby Vision and the sound. Yes. Like their library, as far as their originals. And maybe new content that gets shuffled in and out, as it always does, has like that's never changed. That's always been the case with Netflix. And even in this article, it talks about how they were kind of the ones that came in, and now they're starting to overturn a profit. And so Netflix is, it's still the de facto because it started out the streaming wars, and it's kind of what got everybody into this game. But as these players kind of pilfer off and find who they're best partnered with or what the best way to get their piece of the pie, even if you have main dogs like Netflix in the game, I still have to have this like kind of heart-to-heart thinking, what if even if I drop Netflix, which I have done, and there's others that I pick up from time to time, I don't see how that's lucrative in the long run for people who kind of come and go as they please with this a la carte content, such that it's like you can kind of get what you want, but then you drop it. And I mean, Netflix is already, clamoring the fact that they've been doing great since they did the password crackdown. I'm like, but until you start producing more stuff that nobody watches and you get deeper in the red, and then you're back in the same boat you were in.
Yeah, and I think they're starting to see that not necessarily a drop off, but I think they're starting to see the whole people subscribing for 1 month to watch one thing and then ducking out. That's Netflix is getting into live things now. There's actually a tennis match. Rafael Nadal is retired, but he's going to play a tennis match live on Netflix. It's the only place you can watch it.
Well, like Raw is coming.
Raw is coming.
Mondays.
I would say WWE is coming to Netflix next year, and it does seem like of all the ones who have made partnership deals, or at least even with their content, Netflix. It started out as the third-party content king because nobody was streaming.
Yeah.
So, of course, Netflix is like, absolutely, we want to drive people to our platform. We'll pay all of these other distributors and these other big players. We'll pay them for their content, put it on our platform. And, of course, it's only been within the last 4 or 5 years that the others have gotten into the game. And like, hey, why are we just giving all of our content to Netflix? Let's use that for our own platform. The difference is that in that amount of time, Netflix has built up enough library of its own content and its own deals, whether it be through things like with Raw or even the breakthrough of when they started showing live content like live comedy specials. Their comedy specials in general have been a mark of something you can't get anywhere else. And yet there
used to be HBO.
Yeah, right.
HBO used to have the good stand-up comics and the
well,
live
and I will say
pay-per-view even, but
funny enough, I think Max is probably the only other, and it started off slow, but it's kind of the only other competitor in the streaming space other than Disney Plus that I see as being a viable, option, because you have the Warner Brothers catalog, and even now that they're merged with Discovery, I think it was more so, just having that all together that just helped make it another, great deal. But I don't think people were flocking to Max to get the Discovery content.
Nobody cared.
Right. And who knows? I mean,
I'm sure people watch. I'm not saying nobody, absolutely nobody, but
it has been a way that you could still see the HBO content that has still popularized serial dramas that are made for, bigger budgets than just, regular network and cable television. And that's still the place that most people think of to go to for that. Other than Netflix, which came into the game and they started doing their own. But I mean, even with this, splitting off and this pairing off, I mean, what do we think of in the long term? Because if it is going to be just another cable subscription, you can cut the cord. But if you're right back in the same place you were in, it'll
just be what we're already doing, like just like a carte blanche. You just whatever ones you want. It's like, okay, there's nothing on Netflix for like 3 months, so I'll just cancel it. And when the new season of Stranger Things drops, then I'll subscribe, watch it, and cancel again. Same thing with all of them. And I mean, no, maybe that's not profitable for them in the long run, but they almost seem to be okay with that. Netflix seems to be okay with that. So maybe that, I don't know. Yeah, maybe that is what they are more okay with.
I think they're only okay with it in the short term because they've seen the increase of the people who said, "Oh, password crackdown. Okay, fine, I'll go ahead and pay.
Yeah.
It's still worth it enough for me." We haven't seen the long-term backlash of people saying, "You know what? Budgets are tight, and I really just could use without this luxury. I'm going to go ahead and cut it."
Yeah, I mean, I think people cancel it, and so far they're not doing it.
Right, they're not. You're right, they're not. Sean, what about you? What do you think?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, to go along with that and the kind of people taking the budget more seriously, especially with the economy the way it is, I think that's something that's very realistic and happening with a lot of people, especially families. But, I mean, when you have that, when you have the the ability to cancel your subscription and restart at any time, that's a big difference than when we had cable.
True.
If you had cable and you decided I want to get rid of cable, you had to not only pay fees, you also, if you wanted to start it back up 6 months later, you had to get a new box. You had to pay a fee for this. You had to pay a $200 installation fee. So it made people keep cable.
Yep.
Because they felt like they were going to be raped financially if they didn't.
A lot of times too, you had in there baked in like bundles, whether it was phone or internet.
Yeah.
So a lot of times too, it was like,
you got
I
a different
can't
rate.
just cancel this because then my whole TV or my whole internet bill is going to go up.
Yep.
But you're right. I mean, even just cutting those strings has been advantageous for the consumer because now you do have more of the buying power and saying, all right, well, I won't spend $20 on Netflix this month, but I can get these two streaming services, maybe one with ads that I'm okay with and this other one that's the higher quality, but I can do that for this month over Netflix because I've already seen what I want to see on Netflix.
Right. And I'm just saying for the streaming services, that's not a good thing because they want people locked in. They want people to keep that subscription. No, but I don't think Netflix wants to say, well, we had this many subscribers in June, and then in July, when people are going on vacation, we lost 1 million subscribers, and then in September it'll pick back up.
Right.
Like I don't think they want that up and down. They want a steady stream of subscribers.
Well, we saw
you can't.
We saw Netflix do that as soon as COVID was over. They finally stopped reporting their
because they knew
subscription
people were
numbers.
going to,
Because they knew people were already canceling because the pandemic was coming to an end.
For me, honestly, there's a lot of them out there, and I don't mind paying for several of them. There's some of them that I don't need, I don't care about, I'm not going to pay for them. What is the most inconvenient thing for me is trying to remember what is on which one, and not having them all in one place. This was something that I thought Apple and Amazon were both going to solve this problem because they started channels.
Yeah.
And Apple
those channels are awful.
Yeah, they're awful. But when it first started, I thought to myself, that's great. If I can just go to the Amazon Prime app, or if I can go to the Apple TV app.
That's right.
And I can, all of the shows from all of these services are right there. Then I don't have to remember which streaming service Alf is on.
Yep.
It's just there. And if I want to pay $4 a month for that channel and $4 a month for this channel, I can make that decision, but all the content's in one place, and I don't have to remember. It's just like, even as we're sitting here talking about it, I'm sitting here saying, no, Nickelodeon, I'm watching that on Peacock, but it's also on Paramount, and it's like, that's that's not consumer friendly. When you have to figure out what's on what station.
This was a problem too, even when I think back 5-6 years ago, even with Netflix. I remember telling you all there were times where we'd go over to hang out at somebody's house and they'd turn on Netflix and there was a new slew of here's new releases or based on what you've watched, and there'd be stuff on there
curated to what they think you'll like.
And I'm sitting here seeing stuff that I know I would like, but I've never been presented with it because it was curating it based on certain tastes. And I'm like, there's a lot of crap on these services that, one, I don't even know is there.
Yeah.
It's like content overload. And two, like you said, if you could just have it to where, like even on Apple TV, they not only force feed their stuff at the top that then throw up a price tag, but it was supposed to be that it's like I can sign into all of these services, and if I search for a certain piece of content and it tells me what streaming service it's on, and I say, oh, good, I've got that one, I could just hit play.
Now, Roku
and it
will
would
do
start
that,
doing
and
it.
I do love Roku for that. If you search something in Roku, it'll show you everything it's on, and then you could just go to it and watch
on
it.
that
That's true.
service.
And the Apple TV device, it does that as well. And there's an app, like the Apple TV app that's on that device.
Yeah.
It also does pull in recent things that you've watched from different platforms, but they're not necessarily built in.
They're
It's
not
just-
presented in the best way,
It
and
still
sometimes you
goes.
can't
It
access
still
it.
opens
Right.
the Peacock app. It just
Exactly.
brings in my recently watched stuff.
The PS5 will do that. Like it'll have like, and then
It
if you
will.
click it, it'll open up the app.
Yeah, and that helps a little bit,
Yeah.
but it still doesn't solve the problem
But
of
no, you're
30
right.
streaming services
Well,
and all
because
these
I-
apps.
you don't know.
So
Yeah.
many times I've not even resorted to that on the PlayStation. What I've ended up doing is I'll get on Google, I'll search for it, and then every single one that has a page, you can click down and it shows you what subscriptions it's
Yeah,
on.
streaming
As long as it's
now or
accurate, because
something.
sometimes Google's not
sometime-
up to date.
Or
Yeah.
what kills me is sometimes it'll say like Hulu subscription or premium subscription.
Yeah, that means
Yeah.
you have to
And
have a
you have-
subscription to another service
Right.
within Hulu, like
which is
Stars
such
or
BS.
Showtime.
Exactly.
Because Amazon has that too, like subscription or premium subscription.
And it kills me because I'm like, oh, it's on this platform, but only if you have a subscription to. Because again, Stars and other platforms like that, Showcase or whatever
Well,
it was.
Showtime is a part
Showtime.
of Paramount now. If you have the premium
Oh,
Paramount,
great.
You have 2 tiers of Paramount, and if you have the top tier of Paramount, you get all the Showtime content with
But
it.
all of those used to be special channels that
Yes,
you could buy on your cable subscription, just like HBO.
Well, now you can subscribe to them through every other streaming
But that's
service.
what's crazy is like, but Stars, sometimes it has its like own separate interface. Other times it's built into an app like
Well, it's either
Amazon
or.
Prime.
You could subscribe to Stars and download just the Stars app, or you could subscribe to Stars through Amazon or Apple,
Yeah.
or I think
See,
even Roku.
And I'm just like, there's just
That way you can get all your content on one app if you
again,
want.
I go back to most people think, and it's scientifically proven, most people think that more choice is better, and it's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like
Because you confuse the crap out of everybody.
well, because you have too many
Yeah.
choices to make, and when you're confronted, it's like a kid going up to the ice cream truck,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't know what to decide on because he's got all these choices and he wants everything.
Yeah.
and you can't have everything, and so I
can
do
have it all.
I agree with Sean ultimately that I think it's a benefit more so than a negative from where we were at with the cable days, because cable really was all or nothing, and it was the only way to binge watch.
And you
something.
also couldn't pick what you you could, but it,
True.
like, but there, whatever came on whatever time,
That was
you were
what you
stuck.
had- yes.
Yeah, you know.
You
It's
had
almost
to-
like cable's demise was on demand, because as soon as they started on demand, that's when streaming services started getting big. It's like, oh, people like on demand.
It's like, I wanna
we
pick
can-
what I wanna watch when
right,
I wanna
We can
watch
do
it.
that with a streaming service.
But even then, I remember on demand being limited not only based on when they had it, but sometimes it was still pay per view. It was like you have this
Yeah,
available,
that's
but
true.
you still have to go and pay
some
for
of,
it.
some of it's free, some of it you had to pay for, and
Or
and
it had
even still,
ads in
yeah.
it where it would cut in the middle.
Yep.
I mean, and you still have streaming services that is what they promote. Pluto TV is that way.
Yeah.
It's all free because it's ad based completely.
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of people also get this. They're getting a little irritated because some of these services are supposed to be the premium services where you have the major players that are NBC, CBS, Disney, ABC, all of these bigger networks presented you with the idea of having a one-stop shop for their content. They sold you a premium, package where you could get this a la carte, all this content, and now they're sprinkling in, oh, well, because we didn't quite think it's not as lucrative as we thought, so now we're going to put ads in here. Well, what? I'm not paying $5 for the luxury of instead of sitting down and seeing what you have on air, going and just selecting a show, and then every 2 seconds, or even some half-hour shows that may only have two ad placements in it. I finally got sick and tired of it with YouTube. And I know I'm in the minority here in this room, but I finally got to the point where I watched YouTube more for specialized content that was curated towards my taste than I did, content from these other streaming services.
yeah.
And so I started paying for YouTube, not Red anymore. It's just, I forget, YouTube Premium is what it's called. But yeah, just so I didn't have to see a freaking 30-second ad pop up when I'm sitting there trying to freaking fix my sink. And I want to watch a how-to video.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
30-second ad of buying guava bean. I don't know. It's like, what the hell is this? Get off. I'm trying to fix my
Yeah.
damn sink. I ain't got time for this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I finally, they got me. It used to be they sprinkled it throughout, and it was just like maybe after every 5 videos you had to do a 30-second ad until it became so repetitive. It
Now
was
it's
on
multiple ads
every
during
Well,
each
it's
video.
not even
Yep.
where you would have the option to skip ads. Now it's like, oh, you have 2 ads, but you can only skip after the first one plays.
Right.
And I'm like, so no, basically it's the same thing as having the one ad But now it's like you have to watch this, and then now you can skip the second one.
And just like what Sean said, it's also to the point too where it's like the placement is never curated to where it should be in the video. At least with old TV shows or even things they still have, there's places where they dip to black. Okay, it's a legitimate endpoint.
Yeah.
In a YouTube video, you're watching literally connected and I mean, there's long form stuff that's riveting, and they'll cut it right there and throw up a 30. I can't stand it. Can't do it. So, I mean, there's options out there. I'm with Sean in the camp that I far more prefer the willingness and ableness to swiftly move in between these services as I see fit month to month, as opposed to being tied down in a cable. Even if I wanted to order cable, it's still, they got to bring out the box. I got to call them if I want to reconnect it. They're paying. I have to pay for the box in my house, even if I don't have the cable service hooked up to it. That's annoying. I'm not doing that. I can get on.
But generally, like, it's just the modem you have. Like my internet modem, if I want cable, that's what they're going to hook it up through. Is just that modem.
Yeah, but you're still paying a price
you do.
for that.
Yeah, I know. And that's what's ridiculous. I already have the box in my house.
Yep.
It's like it's already there for internet, but that's what they'll be like. Well, now we got to charge you a connection fee.
And that shows me I'm a little dated, because what I've heard recently is they've done away with boxes. Spectrum just does the app now. That's what my parents do.
They still have. They do have a Spectrum app.
You have to ask for it.
But
you
they do still
ask
have
for the box, because the DVR now is even in the cloud. And my parents recently were going to drop their cable, and they gave them because they're doing an a la carte thing now.
Yeah, they do.
Where you pick, like, they have different tiers, but they have like a 15 channel where you can go in, and there's certain ones you have to have bundled, but then like you get 15 other ones that you can just pick and choose.
Oh, that's okay.
They used to always have, like the tiers as far as this comes with these channels, this comes with this channel. But you didn't get to pick which channels.
Right.
Yeah.
And now not only that is changing, but even my parents got rid of the box, so they don't have a monthly fee for it anymore. But they do have a Spectrum app on their Roku, and that is their live, almost just like YouTube TV.
Yeah, because I used to have the Spectrum app on my Xbox when I was using Friends Spectrum when they worked there. They could they would let so many houses outside of the household if you're an employee. But yeah, I mean, and it was fine. Now I have Hulu TV. But yeah, it's entirely, they do have just an app, and they stream your just like YouTube TV or Hulu TV.
Sean, they're picking up on that. I think Spectrum is picking up on the fact that, hey, at least if we're going to be in the same competition as these cord, cutting streaming services, we got to offer the same kind of freedom when it comes to floating in between, in and out. We want to make it so easy that if you leave us, you're willing to come back, and we got everything still there for you.
Yeah, well, I think that's mainly to compete with things like YouTube TV and Hulu TV, because there's still the people like us that we don't watch I never watch regular TV except for now for sports. Yeah, during the NFL season, and now that I've gotten back into wrestling, I watch that on TV. But otherwise, I would never touch regular television.
Same.
I can't wait till Raw's on Netflix. I don't have to watch it on USA with commercials every 30 minutes.
That's right. Yeah, so it's interesting. I think we're just further seeing how this is working itself out. While there are some negatives, I think far more the streaming benefits outweigh what we had to deal with cable.
It's just that cost that's just insane.
It is, and you have to pick and choose. And I think it's becoming more of the headache of, at least before, when you paid a simple price, you got what you got. You couldn't complain about it because everybody had the same thing. And now you're in the boat of having to pick and choose each month which subscription services you're going to go in between and go without this month and then with the next month. And then you're also dealing with, oh, well, I didn't check out that show because you have it. I don't. And it kind of just, there's no longer the water cooler talk either that everybody can kind of, conglomerate around. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll continue to, keep tracking it. But the streaming wars are dwindling. They're getting fewer in between because they're running out of ammunition.
They don't know what to do.
They don't. All righty, guys, I think we're going to move on to our final headline of the night. We already talked about Madam Web flopping, but we're going to move on to our third headline, which happens to be a couple of different things, because there was Disney had a huge deal today with Sony, inking a deal with Sony Pictures, now distributing their physical media. Funny enough that we Best Buy and all these other stores are getting rid of physical media.
Yeah.
And then Disney, along with that deal, then said that they were canceling their was it Magic?
It's just the
what's
Disney
it called?
Movie Club.
But the movie club.
Disney Movie Club, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was where they would send you the physical copies of certain movies.
We were
every
members
month.
of that.
Yeah, I was. Well, it's funny. I haven't actually bought a movie from them in years.
yeah, I
Even
haven't
though-
either.
But
Because they're all bad.
they are all bad, but
Touche.
they also are all overpriced. When you sign up, you
Yeah.
got like so many movies for like, I forget what the price was, like maybe $12, but you could get like 6 Blu-rays. It was an amazing deal.
Yeah.
But then you have to, for over the course of a year, I think that you still had to order like so many per month, like buy one per month for so many months.
I don't even think. I thought it was more. I thought it was like you had to buy 4 or 5 a year.
You do, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Like when you first sign up, though, they gave you a bulk. Like I
Yeah,
got
they
to
did,
choose,
yeah.
and that was cool. And then you have to buy at least like for that.
They
in that
just send
year.
them to you unless you tell them not to send it.
Well, what you do is you get a new debit card and never put your new one in, and then they just send you an email every month. We can't charge you for this movie, so
Oh,
we're not
okay.
going to send it to
Yeah.
you until you respond to us. And then I didn't respond for 2 years, and now they no longer exist. So
Yeah,
Wow, so you really couldn't cancel it.
I could have.
yeah. You can.
But then wait,
cancel
why
it.
why'd you do that with your debit card then? Why did you?
I didn't do it on purpose. It's just I no longer wanted any of those movies, so I never entered in
Oh,
a
I
new.
gotcha.
Like my debit card, I had to get changed, like for other reasons.
You just
And-
forgot to put in.
And I never
okay.
updated Disney Movie Club, but at the same time, they couldn't like automatically charge me because you do have to go in and tell them you don't want it, or
Yeah.
they charge you.
I
They would
gotcha.
send you an email or
and
send
then they
you
would
something
automatically
in the
mail you the movie.
Yeah.
Well, then because they didn't have my card information, I stopped responding because I'm like, well, I'm just never going to buy anything from you again. And one day I probably will need to call and just tell you, no, cancel it completely. But now they no longer exist, so I don't even have to do that.
Like Avengers Endgame was $40.
yeah.
When it came on 4K Blu-ray.
Yeah. They were
from Disney
way
Movie
like
Club.
full like MSRP.
You could get it for like $22 on
Amazon, yeah.
Yeah. So it was.
They marked it up then.
Oh, very much.
Well, no, if you look on Amazon, like the MSRP will be like $40, but then they
Right.
sell it for $20.
Yeah.
Disney was selling all their stuff on Movie Club as like the full MSRP.
yeah.
Like there was no discount. I'm like, so what's the point of being a club member if you
There,
don't even
it's
get?
not.
Yeah.
Well,
not
you
at
would
all. Except for
when you bought
first sign up.
movies, you would get points.
Yeah.
And so you could use those points
Actually, I did
towards
do
your
that
next
a few
purchase.
times.
Sometimes it equaled out to a decent amount.
I got a couple free movies that way.
But yeah, it wasn't. We haven't bought movies off of it since Endgame.
Well, and it's
So-
honestly, it seems like it was
Actually,
doing
No Way Home,
so
I think, was the last
poorly
one.
that they canceled the service.
Yeah.
But I just think it is funny that I mean, really the main headline was that Disney buys a huge stake in Epic,
In Epic Games, yeah.
And I do think it's kind of funny because,
which I roll my eyes at too, because it's like Disney has to have their fingers in everything huge.
well, of course.
Yeah.
And why not go after one of the distributors or, I'm sorry, publishers of games that we know, one, has already been in a battle with Apple and trying to make its own profit, and then pointing the finger
and
at Apple
Fortnite
for
being
saying...
one of the biggest.
Right, but
yeah.
but ultimately because it's pay for play, or it can be, that they're not getting their cut, they're having to shovel off so much money towards Apple, so then they just pulled the game for the longest time,
Yeah.
went through the court system, and of course they lost. But even then, it's like Epic Games is in the same. They're on the same field of like, okay, games as a service.
Yeah.
That's what all the big EA. I mean,
Yep.
all of them are trying to figure out ways in which they can get.
Nickel and dime, yeah.
That's
Yep.
right. You can do either microtransactions, or it's going to go into
Pay to win.
Pay to win. get a little bit ahead.
Along with the same topic of the Sony deal,
Yeah.
I was also reading earlier that there was like 20 something movies that I think they were under the Fox 21st Century Fox banner. They got 4K remasters that they paid and remastered the films, and Disney decided they were never going to release them in the 4K remasters. But now that they've dumped the distribution stuff onto Sony is potentially going to release all of these,
And that's nice.
all of these 4K remasters that
Okay.
that were they had already paid for them to be done, and then Disney was not going
It
to.
shows Sony has more respect for film than Disney does.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting that it's like now that it's out of their hands, we
But I
might get
also
some
find it
remasters
just-
of
it's-
some of these movies.
It's so weird that, I mean, because that has been like we've seen this kind of decline in physical media, and we've all admitted to it on here. Whether we see the pluses and minuses, clearly the minuses being that there's no telling when a service goes down if you're going to lose that content. We just talked about that last week with Funimation combining with Crunchyroll, and the fact that certain things.
Amazon's done that. Sony has done that with their on PlayStation. They've had where things were removed.
Yes, and so I mean, with these digital content libraries, and there's not servers out there that will host this content anymore once its licenses or whatever lapse. The real question then becomes like, if your library goes away, did you ever? I mean, you paid for it. You said you owned it, and this is why physical media is important. But oddly enough, as we've seen that decline and stores getting rid of, I mean, Best Buy is the most recent, to take note of getting rid of physical media entirely. They don't sell it anymore, and I can't blame them if nobody's buying it.
Yeah.
If it's not a huge portion of their store that people are visiting and buying content, they're seeing the sign of the times. But then as a consumer, and we see the dangers of it, even if we start buying physical media, clearly there's not a market for this. To see Sony, who just had this major flop when it came to Madam Web, also ink this deal with Disney, regardless of how much money it's worth, for something that seems to be going away. Is this short-sighted of them, or is this something that they see as maybe a niche area that they can fulfill? I
do think it's a lot that, because Sony, I mean, I think throughout the years have shown they are one of the last ones to carry, whether it's, like making VHSs, Blu-rays, and now, and of course, because Sony did like spearhead the whole Blu-ray movement.
True.
And put everything in on that. I mean, they own a huge part of that, so of course I guess for them it benefits them to keep producing that for as long as possible, as long as there's a little bit of money coming their way.
Actually, it's funny, I completely forgot, but no wonder they may be bringing that content to Blu-ray. It's going to be cheaper for them to produce it if they have the license for it, because otherwise Disney would have had to license out the Blu-ray technology.
So it's like for Sony, they're
whether
just
that's
like, hey.
4K or not, I don't know if that's the same technology.
I think so.
I think it is still Blu-ray technology.
So I mean,
just the density of the disc is thicker, or not physically thicker, but the parts of the disc.
Regular Blu-rays are 50 gigabytes. 4K Blu-rays are 100 gigabytes.
Okay,
that's the only difference I know of.
But it's just, it is crazy to me that I'm like, I yearn to still get back on the physical media bandwagon.
I
but
still buy them.
But here's the thing: I don't think I'm going
for them all,
right.
Sadly,
and I just don't think I'm going to buy something unless I know it's the last thing that I think I bought, and it was actually a gift, but I would have bought it if I didn't receive it, would have been Lord of the Rings: Return of the 4K edition, the whole trilogy.
Yeah,
and I'm like, those are movies that I not only cherish, but they truly are worth it to buy in the premium format.
Well, they definitely look better than streaming,
right?
And that's my thing. If I'm gonna buy it, if I'm gonna pay $20 on Vudu for a 4K streaming version of this movie,
compressed.
I'd rather pay $20 for the hard copy of it and get the better quality.
But there are some movies, older movies, especially Vudu. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's typically like when I buy a physical copy and they have the digital version.
Yes.
I'll link it on Vudu. But there are times where I've bought older movies on there because I'm like, I don't care if this is in HD or SD.
Right.
I just want to watch the film.
They have
again.
good bundles and stuff on there too.
True. And they just recently, they're changing to Fandango. Fandango's already owned Vudu.
Yeah.
They
For a
bought
while,
it from Walmart a while
Yeah.
back, but they're now changing it to like Fandango Movies.
Yeah.
It'd no longer be Vudu or whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's kind of weird
or you
that...
could just have a hard drive full of movies you don't want to lose.
Well, that's true too. That's always going to be available as well.
Well, you're allowed to legally have backups of your movies.
Well,
You
okay. True, and I'm glad you brought that up, because let's think
Of
about
movies you've purchased.
yeah.
Right.
Movies, I didn't say I didn't purchase them.
Yeah.
But a question for you two in that regard, or,
Yeah.
or even me. I mean, to be fair though, when we sit here and we talk about things going away and kind of being lost to time, we joke around all the time about, these wise guys up in these corporate offices trying to figure out how to squeeze another dollar out of a dime. When it comes to content we've already purchased before, or just upscaling it or selling it in some new form or fashion to get more money out of us, or putting it only on some weird streaming service that you can only get in one location. It's the same thing we saw at the turn of the century when music industry was suffering because you had Napster coming out. People started pirating music like crazy. iTunes comes along, the iPod comes along, popularizes how quick and easy it is to download a music digitally, get it on this device, and have all your music in one place. And it's a huge hit. It pretty much, it took years, but it cut the piracy industry of music down to now we have Apple Music and Spotify, and you can just subscribe. And it's far easier for me to subscribe for that monthly.
Yeah, I haven't
just
downloaded music in years.
Same.
Yeah.
I just pay it for iTunes.
But
yeah.
here's the thing. With all of this, with physical media going by the wayside, do we, for instance, see maybe the piracy as far as movies and TV show content rising simply because, especially from the I think more so the political landscape when you have censoring going on.
Oh, you definitely have. Well, anytime something's censored, you're going to see it pirated in buttloads because people don't want to lose that content. There's certain episodes of South Park and The Simpsons you can't watch on streaming services because they are offensive. So those get pirated all the time because people are like, I want to see that. You can't tell me no just because you think, just because Michael Jackson voiced a character, why does that need to be banned? That's stupid. So,
Right.
Because I do have that episode. And it's one of those things where definitely when there's censorship, it goes up. But also, yeah, like when you look at something like Spotify or Apple Music where you can get a bulk of almost everything on one subscription, you have no reason to pirate music. But now, like we're talking about with streaming services being so bifurcated, it's not like you could just subscribe to Netflix and have almost everything.
Right.
It's like, well, I have to pay, an astronomical amount of money for every streaming service, or I could just pirate. And that's what people turn to.
It is interesting. I'm wondering why the movie scene
haven't come up with something like Apple Music or Spotify.
Well, yeah. Why
I think that's what Netflix was until everybody wanted a piece of their own pie.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, do we see it maybe going that route in the future?
That's with Paramount looking to merge. That is interesting.
But if
Then
you
can
think
see
about
if
it,
they keep flopping, maybe they all decide, well, let's team up with each other, and then you have one massive service again.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny that they didn't go that route. They
People were
started
greedy.
out because even with Netflix, when it first started out streaming, it was a luxury because you could still rent the DVDs. It was just rent by mail.
Yeah.
And it was the idea of no late fees and an endless queue and all this stuff.
When you send it back, you get another one.
Right. But yet when they went to the streaming, it was kind of this like, okay, but there's not a lot on here. Well, then they just slowly started adding more stuff. But even it was never a catch-all. It was never a one-stop shop for everything. It seemed like it was going that route, but it also seemed like there was still a lot of stuff that was withheld because they wanted to maintain kind of this, not mystique, but more so like we're going to save this for like a cable or or like a television at the time or the theaters. I mean, clearly they wanted to make their money off physical, movie sales.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just like it's kind of interesting that the movie industry and TV industry like never went that route. They never looked for like.
I don't think music has really entirely gone that route because it still pisses me off that I'm paying almost $40 a month now for the Apple One subscription, which has iTunes or Apple Music, and I still can't listen to freaking Garth Brooks.
Yeah, well, that's
because
because
Garth Brooks is only on Amazon.
Right.
And that depends on like the artist, and I think that's why the movie industry's never gone that way, is because it just depended on the production companies, and they all said, well, why license our stuff out to Netflix if we could create our own, make money ourselves
you still
by distributing this whatever way.
You have music you can only get on Amazon, and there's music that you can only get on Spotify.
It's interesting,
You can't get it on
and
Apple.
there is.
But it also is funny that there's far fewer independent artists who own their library, like Garth Brooks, or even someone who's big enough. I mean, this was the whole Swiftie battle, or even someone like I'm forgetting a big rapper who could also they were gonna I think it was Jay-Z, the Jay-Z they did Tidal, and he was gonna pull all of his stuff from Apple Music and just put it on Tidal. Kanye was the same way, and then they of course. Nobody was subscribing, so they had to find ways to make money, and they put it on that platform. Whereas opposite, I think we're slowly but surely. I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about in terms of the acquisition and the merging of all these other distribution streaming services, as they're trying to find a way of how can it be lucrative for us, but also we got to fight someone like a Netflix because we don't want to. It's not. We don't want it to be an Apple Music. We don't want to have to be like or the App Store where it's like we got to pay you a 30% cut. Where we may be making a majority, but we're also shoveling out a lot of money at the out the door just to put it on your platform. But it seems like they're willing to do that in some ways because even their own streaming services don't have all of their content. They're doing backroom backdoor deals, like where they're handing out certain things to different distribution services or streaming services. It's like, I don't know. It's a weird industry. I think you're right. It's like, I don't know how much control, you as an independent artist versus, like you said, a production company. But ultimately, Disney buying a stake in Epic Games, my goodness. I mean, I think they're a little late to get in the gaming industry. I mean, they have had always tentacles in the gaming industry as far as doing partnerships.
But that was weird because you had Disney Interactive, and they shut it down along with LucasArts when they purchased it because they're like, oh, we don't need to make our own games anymore. And then they decided to reopen that back up. Yep. Now they're buying a stake in Epic Games, and it's like Disney knows that the gaming market is huge and can make them money, but they don't understand it enough to figure out what to do with it. So now it's just like, well, now we'll buy a stake in Epic because they already know what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah.
It's for the uneducated. Epic is Fortnite.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, that's really.
I mean, there's other games, but that's the main game.
But I also found it funny
Fortnite.
that it's like. They back in 2020 they already had like Marvel's characters appear and Fortnite and Epic Games.
Everybody has partnered with Fortnite.
I mean, that's where the Lego stuff has come in at. And it's like, it gives you a boost for your brand, but it's kind of seen as like it's the Minecraft of to me it's like Roblox now. It's like all these different ventures that you can have that are in the same gaming world, but are so far removed from what originally Fortnite was. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's again jumping on the bandwagon of how else can we get some more money out of this. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to our final segment of the night. Let's get into our story time.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
And real quick, Brian texted and said that he saw on the news that Vizio or Walmart was looking to possibly buy out Vizio.
He did comment that they were looking that way they have their own TV brand. They used to, I thought, because Best Buy had Insignia for
Walmart already has On with the OON,
right?
Yeah,
and then or ONN maybe.
Is
and
Dynex just cables?
Dynex was also Best Buy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought Insignia might have been
no, that was Best Buy.
Insignia was Best Buy, and so was Dynex.
Actually, I used to have an Insignia TV, and I loved it. It was a good TV for a cheap TV.
Yeah. Well, Vizio has kind of upped its game in terms of like they've got your just like any TV brand. They got a low tier and they got an upper.
That would be my biggest worry is that Vizio has done well for themselves in becoming more quality. That I'd be terrified Walmart would buy them.
What's
in the quality.
Walmart going to do?
Yeah, it's like you're just going to like make them go back like 20 years.
There's issues with my TV, but it's still it's a good TV for what I paid for it.
Yeah,
right.
And that's one thing Vizio has always given me is Samsung quality at a different price, and.
It may not last as many years as a Samsung, but I mean, it's still good quality. Yeah. I mean, I've had mine for several years. It's still going.
Yeah.
But
okay,
our Storytime segment happens to
else.
Revolve around the Oscars.
Movies.
I put the last movies. That's right, movies.
Yeah.
I put the last decade on here, but to be honest with you, you covered it a little bit more extensively, which is good.
It's only slightly over. I mean, because 10 years would have been 2013. It's like, I'll go back to 2010 because I feel like that gives you the start of that decade. And then you do see a nice kind of turn. You can, from 2010 to about 2015 and then on, it's like, oh, you could see that from 10 to 15, them sprinkling in some kind of agenda-driven movies, and then from 15 on, it's like everything's going to be like, because we could start from 2010. The winner that year was The King's Speech, which I did really enjoy.
Great movie.
And then you're looking at the other nominees: Black Swan, The Fighter, Inception, The Kids Are All Right, 127 Hours, The Social Network, Toy Story 3, True Grit, and Winter's Bone.
That's
a lot of movies.
And so many good ones.
And but I mean, like, other than like, okay, The Kids Are All Right, like almost every single one of those
every other movie is good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So
and
I'm like, that's a packed year.
Looking at some of those, The King's Speech is one that I'm kind of like, there's other ones there that I would have chosen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I like The King's Speech.
I love The King's Speech. I know that year you wanted The Social Network, but I was all about The King's Speech winning in it. But Inception's amazing.
The Fighter, Inception, and 127.
127 Hours
Winter's Bone is good.
Yeah.
So that was Jennifer Lawrence's
debut, her breakout
so you
movie.
look at 2010, and like that's a packed year. And then you get 11, which was The Artist, which I know me and you
It's a
both
good movie.
liked.
Yeah.
Then The Descendants, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, The Help, Hugo, Midnight in Paris, Moneyball, The Tree of Life, War Horse.
Yeah, see, I would argue Moneyball was better.
I was going to say,
Moneyball, yeah.
looking back, Moneyball is one that I would probably pick as the top winner that I most revisit out of all those.
Yep.
I loved Midnight in Paris. Not as many that year as the year before, but still good. Year.
War Horse.
Yeah, I have no.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have
That was
absolutely
Spielberg.
no idea that was. That was just Spielberg. We gotta
put his movie in there.
2012 is another year where I disagree with the Best Picture winner, but I still liked it. Argo, Amour, Beast of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Life of Pi is probably who I would have went with.
I would've
Lincoln,
went with
Les
Silver
Mis,
Linings.
Silver Linings Playbook, and Zero Dark 30. Actually, I think I went for Zero Dark 30 that year.
Actually, I really like Zero Dark 30, but I would have
But
been
Life
fine.
of Pi was amazing too.
I would say, I'd watch Django, Life of Pi, and Silver Linings all
Yeah,
over
all of
Argo.
those. Even
Even though
all
I
of
liked
those.
Argo.
I did
liked
like Argo. But again, that's another year where like literally almost all of those, except for like Les Mis and Lincoln, was okay. But it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Better than War Horse.
Yes.
And now,
Yeah.
at the turn of the tide.
Not quite yet. I mean, you're getting there, but I still feel like for these years, most of these movies deserve it. Because 12 Years a Slave, which one was a good movie. American Hustle, Captain Phillips, Dallas Buyers Club, Gravity, Her, Nebraska, which was phenomenal. That's who should have won.
Yeah.
Philomena and Wolf of Wall Street.
Actually,
Nebraska
okay,
or Wolf of
I
Wall
see
Street.
4 other movies that I think should have won besides 12 Years
yes.
a Slave.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I honestly of those, I mean, Her, Gravity,
Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street,
Nebraska,
Nebraska,
all amazing.
yeah.
But again, that's another packed year. It's like you see the sprinkling of some of the agenda, but it hasn't taken, I think, like fully control.
Well, no,
of
and the
everything.
reason it didn't fully take control is because the agenda somewhat. Well, I mean, good movie or not, but
Yeah.
12 Years a Slave was the shoe-in pick that
yeah,
year. I think.
Yeah.
Well, and I say that like hindsight's 2020. But
Yes.
after I didn't think it would win that year, I remember watching, and then when it did, I wasn't surprised.
yeah.
Kind of like when Green Book won.
2014, Birdman wouldn't have been my pick, but still good. American Sniper, Boyhood, Grand Budapest Hotel, Imitation Game,
Yeah.
Selma, Theory of Everything, and Whiplash.
Whiplash should have won.
And Whiplash was
Yeah.
phenomenal. I
And
love
honestly,
Whiplash. American Sniper, Grand Budapest, all of those were good.
I say Whiplash for me and American Sniper would have been the standouts that year.
Yep. But then now you get to this year, and this is where everything starts changing.
Oh, yeah.
2015, Spotlight.
Oh yeah.
And then you also had nominated that year The Big Short. And then you still had good ones, not Bridge of Spies.
No.
But,
That was another Spielberg movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. He
Boring.
sure enough,
Yes.
he just seems to always get it. Brooklyn, Mad Max, Fury Road. That's not a movie I think would be nominated now. The Martian, The Revenant, Room. And I love all of those for the most part. But yeah.
Already starting to pale though.
Yeah,
in terms
you
of
do,
quality.
yeah.
I hate to say it, but it's just like of all those, there's not. I would have at the time been more for The Revenant than I am now.
But honestly, of those movies, the only one I'd really care to
Mad
revisit
Max.
is Mad Max.
Yeah, that's it.
The Martian was terrible.
I do remember The
Bridge of
Revenant
Spies was
being-
boring.
That was my favorite movie that year.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely wanted that to win. but-
Honestly, Revenant and Mad Max would be the only two of those movies that year at all. Well, I liked Room. I did like Room.
And
Room was
oddly, I do like The Big Short. I like revisiting it. I think for Adam McKay, he wasn't so
Far Gone Yet.
well. Yeah, and even with as heavily politically charged as that movie is, as only Hollywood can tell.
Yeah.
It wasn't so far bent on just being a raging lefty type movie that I can actually enjoy it and appreciate the creative license as well as the way the story is told, along with the backdrop of what the story's about, versus stuff like Vice and I forget what else he's done.
But
But
Vice is coming up.
yeah, everything Adam McKay. Other
Don't
than,
Look Up. That's
Oh,
coming.
gosh,
That's
yeah.
That's coming up too.
I'm sorry,
It's in
but-
here. It's in here.
Other than The Big Short, he should have just stuck with comedies.
Yep.
Talladega Nights and all that before were fantastic. He should have just stuck with that kind of stuff.
But see, the next year,
This is the
the
one
next
that-
year is the year.
2016.
Moonlight.
Oh, there we go.
Moonlight, yes. Honestly, and I'm going to say this next one, and I laugh because even though me and Sean have defended it, I have no idea why. Like, it does not deserve a Best Picture nom. Arrival. I was just like, I'm like, Was that like I forgot that was
Nope. I
nominated?
I didn't know it was
And
nominated.
I'm just
See?
like, why?
Because people like you all praised it so much.
It was not that good.
It's our fault. Yeah.
It's our
That's
fault.
right.
It's like I liked it. I didn't think it was Best Picture worthy.
That's right.
Fences, Hacksaw Ridge,
God.
Hell or High Water, Hidden Figures, La La Land, which should have won.
Yep.
Lion and Manchester by
It
the
did
Sea.
win.
And honestly, a few of those aren't bad either. I like La La Land. I liked Fences. Hacksaw Ridge was okay.
Hell or High Water is awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Here's the thing. I was going to say, even in that year, La La Land, Fences,
Yep.
Hacksaw Ridge, which was okay.
Hell or High
mediocre.
Water.
But
Yeah.
Manchester by the Sea was
That's a good one.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's like that year had like that's funny is that year actually had some really good ones and Moonlight won. So you can definitely tell where the Academy's heads were at there.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh! And then this one.
This one's the
Oh.
best. The Shape of Water.
Shape
I'm
of
like,
Fish Dick
Yes.
is what I call it.
It's like, and then you have Call Me By Your Name.
no.
Yep.
Darkest Hour was good. Dunkirk was great. Get Out was good.
Three
Lady Bird.
billboards, hands down.
Yeah, 3 Billboards should have won. But honestly, there's still a few of those. Like I said, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, 3 Billboards. I liked all of those. Phantom
Yeah.
Thread and The Post were the other two I didn't mention that were nominated.
Very weak year. Awful year. I mean, really, of all those, the only one I'd probably revisit. I mean, this is the sad thing about Nolan. I feel like is I'm not, other than his Batman trilogy and like Inception and Interstellar, I've not wanted to revisit any of his
I've watched
recent
Dunkirk
films.
a couple times. I really like it.
And I just have had
Yeah.
no desire to go back to it. I'm
Yep.
still gonna force myself to
I watched
try
Interstellar
to watch
last night.
Oppenheimer.
I love Interstellar.
Interstellar is it was one that I didn't like.
I started watching it last
love
night. I
that
had to go to
movie.
bed, but
See,
I started watching
I
it.
ended up not liking that as much when I first saw it in the theater, and it's probably the one that I've most revisited and enjoyed the most.
Yeah, I
It
love
gets
that
me.
movie.
But yeah.
But that year, I don't think is as weak as some of the upcoming years. Like there were still movies that year that I liked.
It's still
but,
pretty weak though.
But then you get to 2018, Green Book was
Which
the
I
winner.
picked. I remember picking the winner that year.
I picked it. Well, I mean, when you look at the competition, actually, there is one I think deserves it more. But when you look at the competition, it's another weak year. Black Panther, why we don't know. Black Klansman, why we do know. Bohemian Rhapsody, which was okay. The Favorite, Roma, A Star Is Born, and Vice. And honestly, of all those, A Star Is Born is the only one I
Easily.
would. Yeah.
A Star Is Born
Yeah.
is probably the only one I would pick.
The Green
out of
Book
all
was
those.
good.
I did like
but
it.
again, it's a movie about an African American that's it's gonna win because
Right.
of that.
Well,
I'm sorry.
It had the.
Anything about discrimination, it's gonna win.
I think you had a little bit of the idea of like division in America, and like
Well, they were
there was
playing
this-
it up at that time,
right.
too. Yeah.
But I think the idea of the story being Viggo Mortensen and
Mahershala Ali, was it? Yeah.
them playing this offbeat, odd couple,
Mm-hmm.
and them growing closer over the course of this trip, and them
Mm-hmm.
gaining a found respect. It was just kind of it was the safe pick that year.
Driving Miss Daisy did it better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I love that movie.
Agreed.
2019. This is our first major, like the Korean movie that won. Not as good as Past Lives in any way. Parasite.
Yeah.
Ford v Ferrari, which was okay. The Irishman, which was okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Jojo Rabbit was phenomenal. I did like that. Joker was great. I liked Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and Once Upon a Time
There's
in
a lot of
Hollywood.
good ones in there too.
There is a
Yeah.
lot of good ones, but because I would revisit a few of those, and actually, there's a few of them I would have picked over Parasite.
But I would definitely have stuck with either 1917 or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Or
those,
Joker.
Those two, Joker and
Marriage
Jojo
Story
Rabbit,
was-
I would revisit.
Oh, yeah.
As I say, there's a lot of ones I would revisit out of that year, but the one that won it was Parasite.
Yep.
2020, Nomadland. Yeah.
Oh, this one was a little bit of a shocker because I didn't expect it to win,
Yeah.
even though I didn't mind that it did win.
Yeah, I don't
based on what
hate
was available.
Nomadland, but there's still
I'm
another
not
one I
gonna
would have
revisit
picked.
it anytime soon.
You got The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Oh, Sound of Metal by far.
Mank,
Oh, yeah.
Minari, Promising Young Woman, which was garbage. Sound of Metal, and then The Trial of the Chicago 7, which was also trash.
Almost all of those.
I don't
except
remember any
for
of those.
The Father and Sound of Metal.
were the only two that
The
aren't
Father was,
political, really.
It was
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins.
That one was
with the guy
good.
with dementia,
Senile,
right?
yeah.
Okay, I did like that one.
That
yeah.
one was good. I mean, it's not one that I would revisit like right off the top of my head, but it wasn't bad.
What the
Sound
hell
of
was
Metal.
Judas and the Black Messiah.
That was the one with.
It was about the Black Panther story
Yeah.
coming about.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Um,
It was. It
That
was
had
that great.
Washington in it.
Daniel Oaleo.
Yeah, that
was-
one,
oh, no, okay.
and there was another bigger
What's
name.
his name? I'm forgetting. No, the guy who played. I'm forgetting the actual activist name. I'm forgetting it. Oh, we gotta move on. We gotta go. We gotta wrap
It's not
this
a big
up.
deal. This year, 2021, the year after, Coda, which was good.
It wasn't bad. It was okay.
Yeah, I mean, compared to Belfast, I like Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of Dog Shit, and West Side Story.
I was gonna say that year's weak too.
That year was terrible. Yeah, that was not. I mean, Dune, I
would
guess.
watch
Coda, I like enough. I would watch it again, but it's not a strong winner either.
It's not a constantly revisit. And Dune, of course, I do want to watch again, but it's just so freaking long.
I like Dune.
I don't know how many times I've watched that so far.
Which is crazy.
And then, of course,
I need to rewatch it.
There's last year, Everything Everywhere All at Once. We had plenty to say about that. All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Fableman's Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking.
And only 3 in that.
And
Banshees of Inisherin, Avatar: Way of Water, and Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird because the main reason we even brought those up was more so to point out just how not only were there other worthy contenders that should have been that you would be more likely to watch again and revisit that truly are best pictures, but clearly how since about 2015 you have seen the stark contrast of the ones who have won have been movies that are either subpar or had an agenda tied to it, which is just sad because that used to not. It used to really be more meritocracy. More merit-based.
Well, even what's getting nominated now, there's years here and there, like you said, where you'll get 3 or 4 really good ones, but they're packed full of, like, every single one of them has some type of agenda attached to the film.
That's right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. What we need to do now, and obviously not tonight because we got to wrap it up here.
It's late.
We need to go back and do the decade before this.
It could.
And then look at those Best Picture winners and how many more.
I looked them over. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to get into it, but from 2005 to 2000, it's funny, like these 10-year shifts. From 2005 to 2015 looks completely different from 2015 to.
And that's what it's just weird to even say that. Like, I hate to say it, it just shows our age. It's like 10 years before what we just discussed is still in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm thinking of like even going back to the late 90s or even mid 90s. I'm like. You look at some of the movies there, and I guarantee you a lot of the Best Picture winners and nominations are films I would far more in a way be willing to watch, since they released than what we've had nominated.
I thought 2022 is kind of interesting that there's 2 sequels that were nominated. The last time, other than Toy Story, but other than an animated film, The Lord of the Rings was the last movie that the sequels were nominated, right?
Yeah.
Weren't they all nominated?
They were,
and then Return of the King won.
Yes,
but again, it's not often that a sequel is nominated.
True, very
and
true.
That was that year. There were 2 of them, which is weird, and they were both comebacks.
The Dark Knight did that. Well, no, I think that was the year after that when they.
Dark Knight was the only one
that was the
never
one that
got nominated.
That was the one
snubbed.
that people got mad about, and that's why they changed the rule.
But then Dark Knight Rises never got nominated.
Understandably so.
But I mean, like,
but both of those movies had like 20 years or more in between them.
Right.
Almost.
Yeah.
Well, no, Avatar wasn't quite that much, was it?
No.
Avatar was
approaching
2009.
10 years.
Yeah,
it was
approaching 10 years.
Yeah.
And then Maverick was almost 40 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But all we can say is thank you all so much for watching. Again, like we said, next week we're going to be reviewing one movie. One of our last Best Picture moms. We still got 2 to go, but one of them, which is Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
You can check it out if you find a way to get a hold of it. There are ways. There's screeners, as we like to
it's
say
out
in
digitally.
the biz.
You can rent it.
Oh, there you go. Go rent it.
That's the only reason we were able to
share
get
some love.
But
It's
literally, that's
VOD right now.
That was the only reason we were able to get it.
That's
because it's.
You're right. That's the only way we were able to get it.
I mean, but I'm legitimately saying it was though.
We're on the
was.
list.
Yeah.
We get one. We receive it in the mail,
Yeah.
hard copy.
That's it.
Digital.
So check that out if you want to join us next week for our review, and we'll have another great round of headlines. But until next time, I am one of your hosts, Britt. Oh, we gotta do email.
What?
I almost forgot.
We have one of those?
Gosh, yeah, we got to do
Sometimes.
email. Hold on,
we
wait.
have
Like,
one.
share, subscribe on all of the social media at the bottom of your screen. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and Red Moon Productions on YouTube and Rumble, of course. We're live
All the
on
things.
both. All the things.
All the
and
things.
that other way of reaching out to us, that old-fashioned way, what is it, Keith?
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
I think this is the longest we've ever gone,
Yes.
other than like our first episode. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And he never says his name.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.